Good morning. Welcome to the Windsor Star News Cafe. I'm Don MacArthur here with Dylan Christie and Windsor Mayor Eddie Francis. He's given us the blow-by-blow of the ward races. We're going to do 6 through 10 now. Eddie, so who do you like in 6?
Joanne Gignac. Joanne, I think, is going to play a very significant role in the next council. Most people in the ward, I think, know and understand Joanne's dedication and commitment to the council table. And she, especially with Fulvio now moving on, Joanne is the voice of reason, and I think that level of experience will be well received by the new councillors as well as by next council. But Joanne Gignac, without a doubt. John Holmes is, I think the only other. There's a couple
there's John S. Holmes too.
John
You got to put it in. And Alex Denonville, actually, we had him on this morning.
Excellent foil.
Young and
so
very
Alex
good
has
speaker.
been out there, and he's getting some signs out there. But I think Joanne will win that ward. And again, these are my opinions. We've had this conversation before. It's meant to inform constituents. Constituents will make their own decision. In this particular ward, I think constituents will make a clear choice with Joanne. They know Joanne. They understand Joanne. She's a hard worker. They know where she stands on the issue. There's no second guessing there, and I think Joanne will do well. And Joanne's going to have a very significant role to play in the next council because of the fact of you're going to have new councillors and they're going to need that level of experience.
You were saying too that she's not taking her incumbency power as granted either, because she is putting signs out there. She is spending the money to go out there. And
the one thing that people probably don't realize about Joanne, or remember, Joanne funds her entire campaign on her own, and she doesn't take any donations. But this campaign, what I've noticed is that she's running a stronger campaign. She's running an organized campaign. She's not taking anything for granted. Her literature is impressive. It's detailed. Her signs are up. She's out there, and she didn't wait until the last second. She's not just going through the motions. She's running as if that this was a real campaign, that she was running from behind. So I admire that about her. She's not taking it for granted, and she's out there working hard to get elected.
Excellent.
Okay. Very interesting race shaping up in Ward 7.
Yes, interesting how.
Well, it's interesting because, Angelo Marignani's like Abe Lincoln. He just keeps going for this thing, and he got denied on the last ballot against Eric. The last time, plus council had voted when Percy Hatfield moved on. Of course, you guys, I actually advocated for giving it, to Angelo because he came second last time round. Council in its wisdom, and you can't disagree with democracy, right? Said, no, let's have a by-election and eat the cost.
Yeah, you know what?
Eric won. He's the incumbent, but he's also kind of new.
Yeah, well, and I think that's going to, play to his advantage and to his disadvantage in some ways, Angelo's. But, we took a lot of criticism. We took some criticism as a council for the decision to go to the polls because there was a lot of, comment in the community that we should just go to the second place winner. What that vote by that ward demonstrated was that, had we done that, we would have robbed that vote, and the constituents wanted something else. So, in hindsight and on reflection, council made the right decision by allowing the constituents to.
I would agree, and I was advocating for Angelo, but you can't argue against democracy.
Right? So I think from Angelo's perspective, and Angelo's a great guy with great ideas, and I've had several conversations with Angelo. From Angelo's perspective, it's going to be a challenge because of the fact that Eric gets to run a campaign based on incumbency, but also that I'm a new voice or a new approach. And having come off a by-election, both Angelo and Eric will have the benefit of being fresh in people's minds. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I think Angelo has great ideas. I think he has a vision that he's presented. In this particular ward, I'm not making an endorsement. I think Eric's been at the council table. He's had the benefit of getting his feet wet, understanding the process. But I forget who talked about it, whether it was Gord or somebody else in the Star, that Eric's going to have to take his game to the next level in the next council. And that's going to be interesting to see. But it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. But I do think the advantage will go to the incumbent in this particular regard. But I do know that both candidates are trying hard and knocking on doors and doing the best that they can to get their messages across.
Okay. Ward 8, Heather Burton, you think is going to bring this one home? Or?
No, I saw Heather, when was it, a couple weeks ago or last week?
Yeah,
that she was here doing the talk with you. I think Heather, you got to give her a lot of credit, right? She's out there putting her name, and she's challenging an incumbent in Bill Mara. So you can't take nothing away from her there, and she's getting her feet wet. Bill will win this ward. It's interesting, though, you contrast this between Bill and Joanne. think Bill was late. I don't even know if he's got signs up yet. But Bill has an opportunity. He will win this ward. The question becomes, what does he do with it once he's on council in the next term? Whether or not he's going to be able to take it to the next step and play a leadership role. That will be something that we'll watch closely and see how he develops in the next council. But Bill will win this ward. It will go to him. And that's not taking anything away from Heather. I think Heather, we should thank and give her a lot of credit, as we do to all candidates, for putting their name forward and coming forward. It's always hard to make that decision to come forward that you want to run. It's even harder when you decide to take on an incumbent, right? Because it does take a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we got to ask you about Bill's comments, right? Like Bill, when he had a press conference to announce he wasn't going to run for mayor, he said, "I'm not going to run for mayor, and here's another thing." And then he sort of cuffed you around a little bit and said, "If you don't agree with you, you're ostracized." And a lot of people sort of gave him grief for that, saying that wasn't the classiest thing he could have done. But is it true? Do you ostracize people who don't agree with you? Like, is he coming from left field? Like, he's an incumbent councillor. He's been there for a long time. He must know what he's talking about.
Well, I don't know if he knows what he's talking about, because weeks prior to that, he was on a local show praising me and praising my leadership. But, you know, the other thing is that you guys have covered council for a long time. Where have you been, Bill, for the last term? If that's the case, why didn't you speak up? Why didn't you, you know, he's not shy in picking up the phone and calling the reporters. So if that was the case, and in fact it was true, he would have picked up the phone and said, by the way, this happened, and it would have been on the front page of the Windsor Star, or it would have been in the lead news story with other agencies, right? The fact of the matter is, when Bill made and had that news conference, he was very bitter, and I can't speak to that. Only he can address that. I have an open door policy, and you know, I'm able to separate personal from professional. And I've said to Bill and to all the colleagues that I'm here to work with you as long as you're here to work for the city and for the best interest of the city. That's fine. I don't need to come over for dinner. We don't need to be social friends. We're not golfing together, and I don't golf, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, Bill really needs to look at things and look at the mirror and ask himself what kind of leader is he going to be in the next council. He was provided the opportunity this council. I know he's made comments. He wants to blame me for a whole bunch of things. That's fine. They're not true. Just because he blames me, it doesn't mean that they're true. You know, Hillary Payne is a good example. Hillary came on to council with one thing in mind when he ran his campaign, that Eddie Francis is a bad mayor and that we need to do things differently. And if you talk to Hillary today, Hillary will tell you that that was completely not true, because the reality is that I'm there to get a job done. But my question to Bill would have been, where have you been, Bill? And if that was the case, why didn't you speak up earlier? But just like I said, it came as a surprise to me. My doors are always open. Bill's never come in to talk to me and say, by the way, I don't appreciate this, appreciate that. I have bullpens every Friday where I set up time for councillors. Bill's one of the few that chooses not to use it. But you can't blame me for your own personal choice not to do something, or for your own personal choice not to take on an opportunity. Having said that, again, I think Bill is going to be the most senior councillor in the next term of council. That he has an important role to play, and that I think he's got to play that role of being a city councillor, and not worrying about what's next, and not worrying about the next election or the next cycle. And I hope for him and for council's sake that he's able to do that.
Okay. Ward 9.
Yeah.
Ward 9 is going to be, listen, Hillary I think will win this ward. And I say that because Hillary continues to impress me and surprise me. The first time that he ran, I didn't know much about him. I knew of his history. I knew of the experience that he brings to the table. But he didn't live in the ward, and he had a lawsuit against the city as it relates to the Budak Group and the demolition of homes. So when he won, what impresses me about Hillary is his tenacity and his ability to be relevant, right? And every issue he knows, his constituency work he does, and his experience has been very significant and a benefit to the table. So Hillary will win this ward, in my opinion. I do like Ryan Sprague quite a bit. I think Ryan has come to the table, again, based on the earlier conversation we're having about my brother and the need to look at council and bench strength. Ryan, if successful this time around, I think would bring a new perspective, a new vision to the council table with youthful energy that will serve well for future councils. If Ryan happens not to make it this time around, I think next time around he'll have the opportunity to come forward again. I hope he does. But in this particular case, I think Hillary will win this ward.
Okay, and the ward we've all been waiting for, Ward 10. You didn't have an endorsement for that
Yeah,
one.
I'm not endorsing anyone in Ward 10.
Takes a slow drink of water.
No, because it's dry in here. First of all, it's cold in here, and second of all, it's dry in here. But I'm not endorsing anyone in Ward 10. I think the residents of Ward 10 are going to have to make that decision for themselves. And the factor, and the elephant in the room is: are residents in that ward going to be able to overlook the credit card and forgive? And overlook probably is not the word, but it's been looked at so many times. Are they going to be able to forgive Al Magny for what he did with credit card and what he did in terms of letting them down as it relates to his term on this particular council? And if they're able to do that, then I think Al Magny will win this award, because he is the most experienced of all the candidates. He is the one that probably will be the most effective in delivering for that ward and for that constituency. The question becomes: has he done enough healing? Has he done enough work to convince the constituents that he's deserving of their second chance and that he won't let them down in a new term?
It's a big if. Has he convinced you personally that you think?
I think there's a couple of things. When Al first went through the credit card scandal, just so that we're clear,
Right.
that I don't make my comments lightly, because when Al went through the first credit card issue, I met with Al, and I gave Al the opportunity. I said, "You're either going to tell council or I'm going to tell council," and he indicated to me that he was going to tell council. So, and then in that meantime, I became the focus, because again, if you borrow Bill Maher's conspiracy theories, right? The mayor cooked this up against me. The mayor did this. And the
Magny
mayor did
was
that.
saying this.
Some of the comments that got back to me. So I'm able to separate the personal from the professional.
Right.
And from a professional perspective, I said to Al, there are a couple of things that you need to do. You need to be able to get out there, meet with your colleagues, rebuild the trust with your colleagues, rebuild the trust with your constituents, and more importantly, get some help. Okay? And stop sitting there and stop trying to blame everybody else and trying to talk your way out of this. But not only that, you've got to prove with your own and through your own actions that these things are things that you're able to do. Since that time, and honestly speaking, and the guy that's been on the other side and attacked by Al, I think he's been trying hard to do that. He's getting the help that he needs. He got the help. He continues to get the help. Most people get the help and then say, "Okay, I'm done." But he continues to get the help, which I think has helped him. He's grown up in a way that he's distanced himself from previous relationships that probably were a bad influence on him. He's rebuilt, or trying to rebuild, the trust with council and with the constituents. Has he been able to do it with council? He's been able to get support for some of his ideas. Has he been able to do it with the constituencies? The constituency will find out on the 27th. From an experience perspective, though, Al brings the most experience to the table. He will be able to deliver more for his constituents. I'm very familiar with the other candidates. If you look at that particular ward, I think if you look at the breakdown, it's going to be Al Magny, Paul Borelli, Mo Shamps, and Wally Shafshak in no particular order, right? So the question in that ward is going to be: has he been able to reestablish that level of trust with the residents, and are the residents prepared to forgive him? And that's a decision for them to make.
But Dylan's question was, has he reestablished that level of trust with you?
He's reestablished a certain level of trust with me, yes, based on what he's been doing over the course of the past several months and over the course of the year. The question becomes, and it's not, I don't live in that ward, so the level of trust with me doesn't matter.
Right.
It's going to be, has he been able to not only reestablish that level of trust, but has he also been able to convince that his residents that not only is it just a mere reestablishment of trust, but that I'm going to maintain that trust. And I think with Al Magny, if he is re-elected, he's got no other choice but to maintain that trust. And the way that you maintain that trust is by having the ability to deliver for your ward in a way that is, respectful, but more importantly, in a way that we expect our elected officials to act.
But yeah, if that guy jaywalks, we're on him. You know what I mean? Like,
No, that's what I mean. That's
Yeah.
exactly it, right?
Yeah.
Like he can't jaywalk. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly it. So it's not an issue of, and that's, I won't, it doesn't matter what I feel in terms of establishing the trust. It's going to be reestablishing trust is one thing. It's maintaining it that I think he needs to continue to work at. And the fact that he's continuing to get help, to me, means that he's serious about maintaining it. But he's got to continue it, right?
Okay. Great. That's Windsor Mayor Eddie Francis with the breakdown of Wards 6 through 10. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
In the Windsor Star News Cafe.